Hello guys, my name is Khan, and actually in today's video I will show you guys that how you can append data in Excel. So before going into what appending command do in Excel and what does it mean by data appending, I will have made a very simple example for you guys in Excel to show what does it mean by data append in Stata. So this is suppose we have two data sets. Suppose you received one data set in one chunk and then you received another data set in a second go by your survey company. So suppose we have data in first go and we received 8 correspondence data, and each correspondent have its unique ID. And in this, suppose after 2 or 3 weeks you received another data file in which you have new correspondent data. So what data appending will do, suppose when you will be say append data in Stata, the Stata will see which variables are common. So suppose ID and ID is common here. So if I am appending data 2 with data 1, then Stata will take these observations from data 2 and then copy it here and paste it there, and it will become the part of data 1, and same because question 1 is also common in with data 2, and question 2 and question 3 are both common. So it will take both three data sets data from here, will copy it here and will make it part of the data 1. But now you have to see that question 4 is not part of the data 2. So that's why these observations will remain blank, and question 5 is not here. So Stata will make a new variable for you automatically, but here all the data will be remain missing, and Stata will just take the data for these observations, will copy it here and will paste it there. So our new data set will be this one now. I can change the borders. So after appending we will be having this new data set, data 1. So now I will show you guys how you can do this thing in Stata. So I have already created a do file for you guys, and I will show you how you can do that and what are the things you have to be careful while appending the data. So I have this do file, and before going to the do file, for this do file I've already created a stata.dta data 1, data 2, data 3, and so in Stata, as I do for all of my do files, I'm creating a working directory and giving the path that where is my data is located, and after giving the location I'm uploading the data. So I'm saying Control S, Control D. So I'm uploading the data in Stata. So you can see I have data 1 in my Stata window. You can browse it and you can see this is the same data from the example I have given you in the Excel. And I'm using a small data set because it will be easier to represent what appending is doing. And other thing I have to tell you guys that data 1 is in the .dtf format. The good thing about .dtf format is that you don't need to mention .dta. So suppose the file name is data1.dta. So even if you are using use command data1, Stata will automatically, it's by default Stata will think that data1 is a .dta file. So therefore even if I write .dta, I will be able to upload the data1 dataset. Stata will not give you an error. And the same way if you don't write .dta, so by default Stata think that data1 is in .dtf format. So as you can see, you can write .dta, or you don't need to write .dta. Another thing I think it's better to tell you here, guys, that when you are calling the data name, it's also not required to write these inverted commas. You can just simply write down the file name without inverted commas too. But it's a good practice if you want to write inverted commas, because inverted commas give you an idea that you are calling some data. So now what I'm trying to do, I want to append data 2 to data 1. So I am going to Control Shift Home and then Control D. But Stata have given me an error, and Stata is saying that the variable question1 is in string in master data. What is the master data? The first data that you are currently using is considered as the master data, and the second data, the using data, will be the using data or the secondary data. So but Stata have given me an error that question1 is in string format in data 1. So I will browse my data. So if you see that this question1 is string, not numeric, you can see the question1 is string, whereas the question2 is byte variable, and therefore I'm just going to clear it. I'm also trying to see my data 2, which is in Stata format. I will just open it and I will browse. This is data 2. As you can see, this is data 2, and I will browse that what's the question1 format in my using data. And if I come here, you can see that question1 is byte in the using data, the data 2. And I think it's better to have question1 in numeric format. It means that my data 1 have a wrong format. So and especially in order to append data, it's better to have the common variables in the same data format. So but Stata also give us another option while appending, is the option of force. But be careful whenever you use force command. So I will show you guys. So suppose if I again for you guys, if I execute my Control D, Stata is giving me an error and saying that your question1 is a string in master data. So suppose if you want to append data even with this error, you can enter comma force, and you're saying regardless this message, just append the data. So what Stata will do, Stata will append the data, but here is an important thing to note. Now the Stata have done appending for data 1 and data 2, but Stata didn't append the data from the data 2 for question 1 because he just created the missing values. One of the reason was because in data 2 this question 1 is in integer format, but whereas the master data is in string format. So therefore Stata just remove those observations. So that's why it's very essential that whenever you use force command, make sure that this thing is not happening. And you can avoid this thing by doing very simple thing. So I'm not saying to force here. So what I will do, I will say that convert my question 1 into a string, into a numeric format. So I'm saying D string means that make it numeric. By you can see that D means make it reverse of a string, question 1, and then replace means that replace the question 1 as a numeric variable. And now if I do it, Control Shift Home, then Control D, you can see Stata haven't given us any error, even there is no force option used. now if I browse, you can see that even from my data 2, from the second data, there is a data for question 1, 2, which is which I need for that too. So this is one of the so that's why I said that be careful whenever you use the force option with append. Another thing that you can do, that whenever you need to use append, it's also good to go to help append, and you can go and see what the options append commands gives you. It's a good description that they have given here in the help window, and you can go into these things into more detail. But the thing here is another thing. I also have another data 3 which you can also append. So if you want to append multiple data set, so you can just copy paste it again. I want to append data 3, and if you have more than 3 data set, you can keep on appending, and Stata, it will be, as you can see how easily you can append data in Stata. So you can see now I have appended 3 data sets, and how quickly Stata will append data sets for you. Now I will show you another thing. So, but here in my above example about data appending, the thing that you guys have to note down is that all of my data sets are in .dta format or in the Stata format. But suppose if you are dealing with data which is not in .dta format, suppose if you have data sets in Excel format, so what you will do, so one thing is that you first import the data into Stata and then save it as .dta, but it's very cumbersome and it will take more space in your computer to first have data sets in Excel, then saving it as a .dta, and mostly you don't need that .dta format for your future uses. So it's another thing you can do in that cases, because for this I also have in my folder, I also have data 1, data 2 and data 3 in XLS format. Suppose if we have data only in Excel format, how can you then append the data? Because when you're appending the data, you can't append using .xls. The data should be in .dta format, and again here if you write down .dta, Stata will append the data sets and will not give you an error. You can see here Stata is still appending the data, but suppose data is not in the Excel in .dta format, then you can't just directly append data sets like this. So suppose if we have data in Excel, so as I said that the one thing is that you first import the data as Excel into Stata from Excel, then save it as a .dta. But as I said that this is very cumbersome, it may take more computer space, and you may don't want to save it as a .dta format. The other way is to do it. So what I will do, I'm importing my data 1 XLS in Stata, and as you guys are already familiar with this import command. After importing, I'm creating a temp file. So temp file is a temporary file. It remains in your computer until you close this session. And I'm creating a data file temp underscore data 1. So and another thing is that this data file will not be shown in your working directory. The Stata will just temporarily creates a temporary file in its background, and then you have to save this temporary file, and this save means it also save this temporary file for a temporary temporary folder, and once you close this whole session, these temporary files will be deleted. In the same way, I'm creating another temporary file for data 2, which is by importing the data into Excel, and then I am creating another temp file for data3, and then I'm calling it a giving it a temp data3 name. After creating these three temp file, and I will emphasize it again that this is a very important command, especially if you're dealing with a lot of numbers of data. So it's very handy, and especially once you have data into very different format in Excel, CSV kind of format, and once you have created temp files, it's very easy to call data. So suppose I have created these three data files, temporary data files, and now if I want to append these data sets, and as you remember, these all three data sets were in Excel format initially, and I want to append now. So what I will say, so just like .dtf file, you can also call temporary files by using use command, and then but here an important thing that you have to call this temporary data file by writing these symbols. You can see I'm highlighting again. So you have to enter this symbol in the start of temporary data file name, and have to write this symbol at the end of temporary data file name. So once I have done so, I will execute this thing first, Control Shift Home. Another thing I would like to tell you that whenever you can create temporary files, you need to execute your whole do file from line 52 onward to till the first line. So I will say Control Shift Home, then Control D, and now if I go to my result window, you can see that Stata have uploaded the data one in my Stata, and but this time it is from the this time the data is shown from the temporary data file. And now suppose if I want to do appending this temp data2 and temp data3, and again if I go to my working directory, this is my working directory, you are not seeing any temporary data files here. So the Stata is just created these temporary data files in a temp folder, and once you close this window, all the temporary data files will be removed. So now I want to append temporary data2 and temporary data file 3 with temporary data 1. Control Shift Home, and then Control D. Again, Stata is giving an error that the question 1 is a string in master but byte in using data. Now in this example, suppose I want the question 1 to be string. I'm just giving a hypothetical example that suppose if I want to keep question 1 as a string. So what I can do, I can go to my data2 where I'm creating my temporary data file for dataset 2. I can go here at line 39. After importing the data2 XLS file, I can say to string question 1 comma replace. So to string means that make this question 1 as a string and replace question 1 as a string variable. So if I Control Shift Home, Control D, so after importing the data2 from Excel file, if I go here, as you can see that question 1 was byte, now string. I can browse it, and I can see that in my second data set the question 1 is in string. I will close it. But we are appending 3 data sets, and in our third data set the question 1 is also numeric, so I have to convert question 1 of data 3 into also string format. so that I don't get that error. But suppose if I don't do it, so if I execute till line number 58, control shift home, then control D. Now Stata haven't given me an error because I've already converted. If I browse it, you can see question 1 is all string, so that's why Stata haven't given me an error. But if I go back now, but suppose if I want to append data 3 too, probably Stata will give me again an error. As you can see, Stata is saying that when Stata tried to append data 3, Stata have given me an error that question 1 is string in master but byte in using data. But as I said, now the master's data set is a combination of data 1 and data 2. So if I want to append this data set, what can I do? I can go into after uploading the data 3 where I'm creating temporary data 3 file, I can use this command and then I can append it with all these files together. So I'm saying toString question 1, so I'm saying that make question 1 as a string variable and replace it as a string. And now if I append the data set, probably I will not get any error. Control shift home, control D. As you can see, now Stata have appended all the 3 files, and in this example, initially we assume that we have a data sets in Excel format. So first I imported the data in Stata from Excel format, then I saved those data files in a temporary files, and then I appended them one by one. So now if I browse it, you can see that all the data is appended very nicely. So after appending, you can easily import the data into a into .ttf format or into Excel format. Suppose if I want to create save it as a .ttf format, so I will just say use, or I want to give it a name as master .dta, and say replace. So if I execute my control shift home, control D, so I'm not saying this is, I have written down use, it should be save because I want to save it as a masters.dta file. Control shift home, control D, and now you can see Stata have created a master file for me. So suppose if I close this window, clear it, and now if I go to my working directory, you can see I have master's data file, which is created by appending data 1, data 2 and data 3. If I open it, if I browse it, you can see all of my 3 files data in one file. And actually in this example I have used very small data set, but many times, especially when you are working in an office, you will be ended up using very huge files, and at that time appending data sets manually is a nightmare, and you can solve your appending if you have to append the data. It's better to use the appending command in Stata, because you can't it's not very easy to append data sets manually, and especially when you are having in this example I have used just few variables, but in big data sets you will be having a lot of variables, and maybe those variables are not in a same sequence, so you have to append one column by column, so you have to see where question 1 is located, but by using the appending command, the common variables will be appended very nicely by Stata, and it will save a lot of your time. So this is just a brief overview about appending. If you have to look more deeply into appending in Stata, you can just write help and then append and Stata have a lot of description about this append command. You can, and the Stata also have given some examples here, so you can use the help of Stata to know more about this command. So thank you for watching the video.